I am Pious, Kojo, Backah, and that was the latest currency update. Talking about the currency, the Bank of Ghana has been defending the daily quotation of foreign exchange rates, which puts the rates lower than what is sold in the retail or forex market. According to the central bank, the rates are just indicative exchange rates collected and collated from the commercial banks as average rates offered to consumers or customers. Now, some individuals have criticized the Bank of Ghana for the publication of foreign exchange rates, which does not reflect the current retail market rates. But answering questions at the Public Accounts Committee, First Deputy Governor Dr. Maxwell Opoku-Afari explained that the rates from the central bank are indicative rates and not transactional rates.
Honorable Chair, if I may come back on that, just because it's a public interest question, I also want to give a public interest response. The Bank of Ghana does not have a Bank of Ghana rate as we speak. So what is being tweeted is our indicative rates, our transaction rates collected from commercial banks at the end of the previous day at 3 p.m., weighted average based on the transaction volumes, and then published for the benefit of the general public. The difference you see from the commercial bank is that when you go to your bank this morning, they would have published an indicative rate, but not a transaction rate. So you see 13 or 12, the bank is saying that as you come to my bank, you may get this rate. But depending on the type of transaction you have, you may even get 10 or 11. So you look at the indicative rate and you compare it to their previous day's transaction rate, you see a huge margin. But then the transactions take place, you weight it, and it's no different from what Bank of Ghana publishes. So when we go out there to deal with PMMC, we deal with them on the rate at which the commercial banks transact business. And that's the rate at which PMMC also buys. So there is no exchange loss in that transaction.
Meanwhile, the cedi continued its marginal improvement against the US dollar, selling at 12 cedis 50 pesos this morning. It is about 3.1% gain to the American greenback since the beginning of this week. Now, some market operators have described the cedi's performance as surprising. The following report has more.
The local currency sold at 12 cedis, 60 pesos to the dollar yesterday. Today's rate means it has gained 10 pesos in value to the world's most important currency since yesterday. The cedi's impressive run for the past 2 weeks has come as a surprise to many since the country's reserves have fallen significantly to about 2 months of import cover, whilst its net foreign asset is also negative. However, the significant progress made by the government on the domestic debt exchange program could be the rationale behind the cedi's recent performance. This is assuring investors that the government is committed to bringing the country's debt to a sustainable level and subsequently building a robust fiscal economy.
Now, economist Professor Lord Mensah is projecting that the domestic debt exchange program may rather aid in quick recovery of the economy. This follows warnings from other financial analysts that the program will crash the economy and will take about 5 to 10 years to achieve recovery. But speaking on PM Express Business Edition, Professor Mensah, however, noted that an economic turnaround could be realized if the government also shows commitment by cutting down its expenditure.
If you look at the happenings now, it all boils down to government and their, appetite for spending after the domestic debt exchange. If government continue the momentum that they have in their spending, trust me, this exercise that we're doing will be nothing to write about. So we hope that government will give that signal. And as you mentioned, in the media budget...
Would you want them to use a media budget to show this commitment of the cuts
that
in
is very, very important. And in fact, if I'm to look beyond, the engagement that various, financial institutions have had with the government, what was missing, right, was the post-DDE, how government can be committed to some of the things they say. Yeah, fiscal discipline. And probably most of them were relying on the presence of IMF, at the time. Because we know when we go to IMF will give us that kind of restrictions on how we spend.
Yeah.
And now they're going...
I mean, prior actions, they're asking for certain critical things to be done.
Yeah, 0% financing from the Bank of Ghana. Yeah.
Publishing of the COVID-related news
the last IMF we went to was 5%.
Yeah.
We couldn't manage the 5% to it took us very short time to go back to IMF. So now it's going to be harsh. So you're going to do 0% financing.
I'll come back to you on, and it's still the doom. So for you, you don't think that it is really that bad?
It all depends on how government manages its finances. And as I mentioned, if government continue to spend the way we've been spending, recklessly, inefficient spending, we'll end up coming back to the same situation.
Professor Lord Mensah speaking to my colleague George Wiafe on Business Edition there. Now, the Association of Ghana Industries says its members within the beverage sector are unhappy about the surge in water tariff, describing it as retrogressive. According to the Chief Executive Officer for the association, Seth Chumakwawa, a tariff increment of 316% and subsequently 172% for its beverage sector and the industry will have dire consequence for the industry and the Ghana Water Company. However, asked the PURC to maintain its beverage sector companies in their industry category. He was speaking at a press conference.
We, however, notice the principle of equity was largely missing in the major tariff review conducted in August last year for water, where a particular customer category was being asked to bear a 316% increment in a single tariff review. Indeed, our beverage companies and the industry have always belonged to the industry category of water users. Surprisingly, the last major tariff review in August 2022 saw an introduction of a new end-user category, that is commercial bottled water and drinks category, which is quite alien to the PURC Gazette. Indeed, the increment for this consumer category alone was 316% over and above the 21% average increment reported for water. This is the new category our beverage companies within industry are being unfairly reassigned. We acknowledge the water tariff reduction from the 316% to 172% subsequent to our meetings with the PURC, but this is still unbearable. We do not think the creation of a new consumer category addresses the challenges in our water distribution system. Such astronomical tariff increment in a single revision is retrogressive and shows no empathy for Ghana's ailing industrial sector. We all need to wake up to the looming collapse of local industries, which hold the key to job creation and our economic recovery. We think it's unfair for the PURC to demand a significant share of revenue from industry whose cost of service is much cheaper. And I will have the opportunity to explain this. We urge the PURC to make public the real cost of service for each consumer category to engender transparency and fairness. With the foregoing, AGI is calling on the PURC to maintain its beverage sector companies in their industry category, which has seen increment of 48% in water tariff already.
And we shall be connected with the communications manager of the Ghana Water Company Limited, Stanley Mate, for more on that. As and when we do have him, we shall bring him on to speak to the allegations being raised by the Association of Ghana Industries. You're still watching Marketplace with me, Pious, Kojo, Backah. We're taking a short break. We'll be right back. Please stay. Welcome back. This is the Marketplace with me, Pious, Kojo, Backah. Now, the Food and Beverages Association of Ghana has expressed their displeasure about the approach being adopted by the Ghana Revenue Authority in enforcing the electronic VAT law. This is coming after managers of Osu Kuala, Maxmart at 37 and Cantonment were the latest to fall in the grips of the Ghana Revenue Authority for tax evasion. Well, this is part of measures by the authority to enforce the electronic VAT law. Other managers were picked up were managers of Palace Mall and Laboni and Kuala Center at Laboni, all in the Greater Accra region. The following report has more.
What do you want to do?
This is a continuous exercise sanctioned by the Commissioner of Domestic Tax Revenue to boost compliance on the electronic VAT initiative. The managers of 37 Maxmart, Kuala Osu, Kuala Laboni, Palace Mall at Laboni, Maxmart Cantonment were arrested after some engagements with the officials of the Ghana Revenue Authority. Their offences include failure to issue electronic VAT, duplication of signatures on VAT receipts, among others. There was a bit of hesitation at the Laboni Kuala Center and Palace Mall at Laboni when the managers appeared to affect the arrest. Here is Accra Area Manager of Enforcement at the GRE.
Of course, the cases are many and varied. The infractions are many and varied. So it depends on the manager and the case that we built against that particular shop. Because there are different shops at different branches. So you could even have the same company, but the infraction is different because the infractions are happening at various locations. So that's what is happening. So each case is being looked at separately from the others.
So if that's the case, like you mentioned to us the last time, mention which particular station or center and then their offense.
Yes.
So like 37 Maxmart, their offense, Cantonment.
All right. We are looking at Kuala, the Osu branch. Non-issuance of EVAT invoice. Then with Kuala Cantonment branch, the same offense. And then Maxmart, the same offense. And then Palace Shopping Mall, they were duplicating the signature. Yes. And then the last, which is Maxmart, also the same offense, non-issuance of the EVAT invoice. Yes.
He has also been explaining the tax laws under which the offences were committed and the appropriate penalties.
We are looking at the sections of our VAT Act and then the Revenue Administration Act. When you look at the VAT Act, the prescribed sanctions are under Section 58 and Section 59. And I can give you the maximum penalty units that can be applied is 1,500. That's the maximum. And each penalty unit is 12 Ghana cedis. And if you look at the imprisonment that can be levied on you, that is not more than 5 years. That is what is applicable under the law. That not more than 5 years. These are the maximum, the streams. Yes.
The managers have been handed over to the Criminal Investigations Department for further investigations and prosecution.
Let's stay a while longer on this development, and we are joined by lead partner tax at Deloitte Ghana, George Ankoma, as well as the Executive Secretary of the Food and Beverages Association of Ghana, Samuel Agri. Let me start off with George Ankoma, first off, who is joined us via phone. George, let's look at the Ghana Revenue Authority's recent approach to ensure that businesses comply with the EVAT. What do you make of it?
Thank you, and good afternoon to your listeners. So, as you are aware, the Ghana Revenue Authority has a mandate to collect taxes in Ghana, and for that reason, ensure that businesses do register with them and comply with the laws regarding the tax collection. However, I think the tax authorities also need to do a bit more education when it comes to implementation of certain aspects of the tax law. You have just mentioned the EVAT system that some businesses or companies have been arrested for non-compliance. Non-compliance definitely comes with sanctions. And so the GRA, once they see that you are not complying, would want to impose the sanctions on you. However, I would think that the GRA should go a bit more further to engage this business, to do more education around the e-VAT system, and even public education around the need for business or for individuals to ensure that when they buy from this shop, they are demanding their VAT invoices. Most of it, people buy and they will not demand their invoices until some of these things occur. But if people are aware of the need to ensure that they get their invoices, so that they can even use them for their own tax obligations, I think that will also help with the compliance requirements.
And for you, Samuel, who has joined us via Zoom, you seem to have serious reservations about the way and manner in which the GRA is enforcing the e-VAT law on some of your members. Is that so? Please unmute for me. Kindly unmute for me, Samuel. Samuel, we can't hear you. If you can unmute for me, I will be glad.
Is that okay now?
Yes, much better. We can hear you now.
Okay. Now, the GRA that has the power to oversee the collection of revenue in this country. Unfortunately, as they came up with this e-VAT, every company that has been enlisted is supposed to synchronize this system with the GRA to ensure that GRA sees exactly what is happening. Now, the question is, if I am synchronized to your system and there's a network breakdown, you are not going to get the necessary information that you need within that period. And also, when the system operator decides to do anything against a particular company, they will do that in order to get what they want. And therefore, GRA will come after you and say that you are doing ABC. Unfortunately, when GRA set out to arrest these companies for infractions on their system, now you will ask yourself, the system operators that are sitting behind this machine, what are they doing? Immediately you rectify that there's a problem going on with this particular company. You call the company to find out exactly what is going on, or you pay a visit to rectify the situation. Unfortunately, they did not do that, but they go in a Rambo style as if these people are hoarding cocaine in their premises, and therefore they are going to collect that cocaine. Now, if you are collecting taxes, this is not the way you're supposed to go in as an authority to bring these people reputations and the businesses that they own down the drain. Because when you do that, these businesses will go down and people will then say that they are doing something bad. But unfortunately, they are not doing anything wrong or untoward.
For you, what do you think is the best way to go about it?
Recognize. Yeah, what the GRA fails to recognize is that the very moment you think there's an infraction going on in this facility, your men can go out there to find out exactly what is happening. You are not doing that, no call or whatsoever. You just go in and then arrest them for whatever reason they even don't know, than to say that these infractions have been committed and therefore you are under arrest. We don't do that because the system that they are operating itself has so many flaws that has to be looked at. And therefore, if they need to do that, they have to bring these people on board to gradually make sure that they migrate finally onto their platform to make things work. Unfortunately, if you look at the way GRA went about arresting the people and then telling them that they have committed crime and all that, if it comes to tax issues, there are so many companies that owes government millions of Ghana cedis. They negotiate and they pay for. Unless GRA has given issuance of warnings and these people are not feeding to those calls, and therefore you go in with the force that you need to. But unfortunately, what they are doing is not right. They cannot do that, even not because they have the power to do so. They go ahead and then arrest people anyhow. We don't do that in a civilized society.
All right, Samuel, thank you very much. But hold on for me. George, you've heard Samuel raise these concerns. Now, what is the best approach? And they say that the current approach being adopted by the GRA is anti-business and really is not helpful.
Thank you. So I think I perfectly agree with Samuel and the point he raised concerning the GRA, how they approach the taxpayers, even where there are some perceived infractions. I believe that that's in line with what I said earlier, that the engagement with these taxpayers, because if you have identified an issue, you need to go there and find out what is happening. Because my understanding of this feedback system, for instance, that the GRA has the back-end view of what is happening. So if your system is down, the GRA is able to see. So they should be able to send an officer to your place to check what is happening and how they can support. Because it's important for the GRA to also see that taxpayers are business partners, and I have always said that you don't kill the hen that lays the golden egg. And so you should ensure that when these taxpayers have issues, you try and work with them to make sure that they come out of it. There is a gradual growing perception that the GRA, and for that, the government is hunting some of these companies, or I should say multinational companies in Ghana. I think that is not a good perception for us. It does not attract investment. That is not to say that the GRA should not follow up on taxpayers to ensure that they collect the appropriate taxes. But the management of the discussions with the taxpayers, how they deal with them, if there are issues, if there are discrepancies, how you get with them to reconcile and come to a meaningful conclusion.
All right.
I think that's very key to avoid some of these perceptions. We're already seeing some of these perceptions being raised by other multinational companies that have been assessed to taxes for some prior years.
Thank you very much, George. Ankoma is a tax partner at Deloitte. Samuel Agri, I know you are on now. Quickly, I know you've been trying to engage the authority on this matter. How far have you gone with that? Quickly, in a minute.
Yeah, we've tried to send messages around, also to meet the head of that department, Mr. Jamna, to discuss this issue. But we expect that they will be open enough to let everybody see exactly what is going on.
All right.
We don't condone that businesses should use other means to evade taxes. But then they should have a proof that these companies are doing such. But the system that they are running now, I should tell them that it's not foolproof. There are so many anomalies in the system.
Grateful.
Because I paid a visit to one of the companies just to investigate or to find out what exactly is happening.
Samuel, we are grateful. He's the Executive Secretary of the Food and Beverages Association of Ghana. Speaking to us there is Samuel Agri. And that's it for The Marketplace. With me, Pious, Kojo, Backah. For more news, you can get business stories on myjoyonline.com/business. Always a pleasure coming your way. Do enjoy the rest of our programs. Bye-bye.